Good morning. Welcome to the seminar, Vyšehrad Automotive Industry Getting Ready for Zero Emission Future, organized by the Euractiv portal in cooperation with the Embassy of Republic of Poland in Bratislava. Welcome to a seminar which will take approximately 90 minutes. We'll have a wide panel of 8 participants. And you'll be able to ask questions in the second part of the seminar using a Q&A window, which is at the bottom of your Zoom. So before we start, let me just a short introduction to the topic. So we'll be talking about the automotive industry and the challenges presented by the decarbonization of the industry. It's an important topic for Vyšehrad countries, first because automotive sector is strongly represented in all of the Vyšehrad economies. In some of them, it's actually the leading industrial sector. And second, because automotive sector will be affected and is already being affected by decarbonization plans, not only in the EU, but also as a global trend. As I said, we have a wide panel of experts from 4 Vyšehrad countries. I'm not going to introduce them now because it would just take too much time. I will do it as we go through the presentations. But before we start, let me give a word to Ambassador of Poland to Slovakia, Mr. Maciej Poruczaj. Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me. It's a great pleasure for me to open this event. Thank you very much to our friends from Euractiv for cooperating with this panel. I'm very glad that it's taking place on the basis of V4 Vyšehrad countries framework. This format of regional cooperation, despite all the ups and downs, has proven a very useful tool for cooperation in our region, and I'm quite certain that it will stay useful in the years to come. V4 is for us a proof that we, the countries of Central Europe, so badly affected by history, can do something, can cooperate on our own terms, but it also makes our voice stronger, easier to hear, either on the European stage or on the global stage. As to the topic of today's seminar, V4 economies have long been strong players in the automotive industry. We either produce in our countries the popular brands of cars, or are important suppliers to this industry, as in the case of Poland. We may say that the automotive industry was one of the engines of the transformation of our economies after communism. But of course, as we all know, the world does not stand still, and it seems that without the transformation of this industry, it will not be possible for us to move V4 countries towards the economy which is knowledge and innovation based. Of course, not everything depends on us. The headquarters of the automotive industry are located outside Central Europe. Of course, we have to pay attention to the growing competitions with players outside the EU, such as China. Of course, the decisions to decarbonize European industry are taken outside our region. But taking this bigger picture into account, we still should have a voice in all those processes, and we should search for synergies between ourselves in order to promote solutions that would be best for our region and for our peoples. I'm actually quite glad, among others, that there are representatives of the electromobility sector from my country, Poland, present at this event, who are trying hard to provide some of our own answers to those global processes. I'm very curious what answers you would provide to the questions raised by this debate, and I wish you a pleasant, inspiring discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Indeed, as you had pointed out, the automotive sector was an important or played an important role in transformation of Visegrad economies and their more or less successful integration into the European economy. But now it's facing several challenges. And Visegrad countries, of course, they are competitors because they are competing for the same foreign investors, but at the same time, they also could cooperate to help this transformation of the automotive sector in their countries. So now let me start with the first round of interventions from our panelists, and we will start with Mr. Zdeněk Čech, who is the head of the economic analysis section at the representation of the European Commission in Slovakia. Mr. Čech? Yes, you have to unmute.
Yes. Good morning to everyone. I would like to greet you from the European Commission, respectively from the European Commission representation in Slovakia, Bratislava. I'm really honored that I can speak at this event. I will give you in my 5 minutes, kind of three insights, into this automotive topic. First where we come from, and the second, where we are heading to, and third, some policy perspective. So where we come from, actually, in the European Commission, we set up as a long-term agenda policy goal, the Green Deal already in 2019. In July 2021, we adopted, the EU climate law that established the framework for achieving the climate neutrality by 2050. And this was followed, by the proposal Fit for 55 that I think we largely will be discussing, today, the implications of that. And of course, we had, Russian-Ukrainian conflict since February 2022. This is also affecting, the move towards, clean solutions, because getting, some kind of independence on external fossil fuels. And all this was actually reflected in the speech by President of the European Commission on 30 September, State of the Union, where actually she underlined that the Commission delivered, numerous policy milestones in this Green Deal agenda on climate policy, and also stressed, importantly for this, that for the future, that there is need for industrial competitiveness, and underlined the clean tech, that automotive industry is part of that. And where we are heading to, this is the Fit for 55. Really made a kind of adjustment, in the path towards the climate neutrality, that we need to reduce the emissions by 2030 by 55%, and the automotive industry is in the integral part of that, because why it matters, the cars and vans have altogether emissions of about 15%. 12.5 are cars and 2.5 are vans. So it's important contribution, and that's why we launched the legislation that was actually in the end adopted by Council in March 2023. And actually the aim is to speed up the transition to zero and low emission mobility. That actually this provides the reduction targets for 2030. And basically with the aim to go to zero emission cars by 2035. So I think the biggest benefit, for consumer is that the zero emission cars itself, and that there is also less air pollution in Slovakia. You have 5,000 premature deaths per year due to the air pollution, and so the important aspect is the health and well-being. And we hope that as already, the operating costs are already lower for e-vehicles than for combustion engines. We hope that actually as the sales progress, that also that the cars will get cheaper. And indeed, as Mr. Geist stressed, Slovakia is the world's automotive superpower. It has it is produced around 180 cars per 1,000 inhabitants, which is much ahead Germany, and also our neighboring Czechia, which has only 5 cars. And actually 43% is of exports, of Slovak exports are actually cars, in terms of the values, So not only for EU GDP, 7%, 12.7 million jobs. Out of these jobs, we have 164,000 Slovakia. So Slovakia is extremely important as for the whole automotive, and only 3 policy perspectives. What basically the goal is that we want that the citizens have access to affordable mobility, and that is clean. This is the ultimate. And only 3 bullet points that we will hopefully discuss in the future in the discussions. That I think that the EU car industry already made a choice where it is heading. That we need to watch competitors globally. The China, US in the IRA, China. This is superpower selling. Producing 59% of the global e-cars, and we need also the skilled workforce, to move ahead in this transition. Thank you. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Czech. Thank you for kind of providing us with a European background, a legislative background to today's discussion, but also a global perspective, which is important. And I guess, and I hope we will touch upon it in the discussion. And I will now give floor to Patrik Kryžanský, who is Director of SEVA and Vice President of Vyaceré, European Association of Electromobility. On a personal note, I know Patrik for maybe 20 plus years from university, and for past few years, I know him as the main ambassador of electromobility in Slovakia. He didn't have an easy job before when electromobility was seen more as a threat than as an opportunity. But maybe the tide is changing. So, Patrik, the floor is yours.
Rado, thank you. You're absolutely right. We've been in this industry since 2011 here, and there was fighting with the headwind. Now we have tailwind, I think, coming mainly from the EU. And since 2019, when the rates or the sales of EVs were below 3%, now we are at 16 and more percent. I'm talking EU average. But if I may ask you to just show my slides, 2 slides, that would be more visual. I just want to remind to everybody that CE region is very dependent on the automotive. We are actually in top 10, more countries in top 10 globally. And as you can see, not only Slovakia is the top per capita producer of cars in the world, Czechia is number 2. And we have still 2 others in first 10, Slovenia and Romania. And if we look at Hungary, which is number 4, and Poland, they actually are excellent also in battery industry. Poland number 2, Hungary number 4. So this actually gives you a perspective where we are in terms of the potential and opportunities, but also in terms of the challenges. And if I go more deeply, please, next slide. I will just show you one perspective of this transition. As I told you, 16% of the sales are today electric. When we look together with Globsec and Automotive Association of Slovakia last year on the impact on the job market, we concluded that this transition might have tremendous impact on our automotive industry. If you want to go into more details, I just want to highlight that if we don't do anything in terms of business as usual, we would easily lose about 10% of the GDP until 2040, where actually the accelerated loss would be after 2030, and more than 70% of our markets would be gone until 2035 because of the switch to electric vehicles. And by the way, we looked at this before China actually came really into force, mainly in the news this year, but it has actually started to appear in 2022 as well. And if we talk numbers, 20% of all cars imported into EU come from China. Of course, this includes not only Chinese manufacturers, but also the European that produce in China for the EU market. But we have to realize that there is not only the challenge in terms of the transition itself, but also in terms of the global transition. China is for many OEMs, particularly from Germany, the market which reaches up to 40% of their production. So that's the biggest market for automotive market in the world. And just to give you another perspective, if we transform, and of course we have started already, we can be almost even in terms of the jobs. So if I come back to my original topic, jobs and the transition. So it cannot be, or it doesn't need to be only black. It can be also neutral or slightly improved scenario, where we say that we can actually gain some GDP if we actually are successful in terms of attracting new investments, particularly in the battery industry. So if we produce the batteries for our automotives in Slovakia, we can gain up to 1% of GDP and slightly less than 10,000 of new jobs. Of course, I don't have much time to speak about Czechia and Poland. I believe the other panelists will highlight these geographies by themselves. But you have clearly idea that this actually affects not only Slovakia but also others. However, I would just highlight the findings, for example, of the report from BCG, where they actually also calculated last year that if Czechia actually does the transition correctly, this could also mean gains in terms of the jobs, or somewhere where the jobs wouldn't be lost. Of course, everybody hopes that the country would be able to attract new investment, particularly from batteries. So I'll be happy to answer your questions or react to other panelists later during the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. And I really like your presentation because it forms a backdrop for another question, and this time to Sonia Muzikářová, who is political economist and consultant to the future of Slovak automotive industry for Center for International Private Enterprises. Actually, we have met a couple of months before at another seminar, which was talking about the transformation of the economic model for the CE countries. And probably this transformation of automotive industry plays an important part in this transformation, new economic model. So, Ms. Muzikářová, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rado, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. So yes, as you have just alluded to, basically Fit for 55, which to me somehow always sounds like a gym membership for people to get fit by the age of 55, but it's not. And a centerpiece of this legislation is the internal combustion engine car sales ban by 2035, and I always break my tongue on that. But this is very consequential and has profound implications for the pervasive economic model of Slovakia, of the region, and also for the Vyšehrad legacy car industry. We know that each of the Vyšehrad economies harbor several big OEMs, and this ban involves a substantial transformation towards EV manufacturing, which consists of several layers. So it involves the overhaul of assembly processes, also of supply chains, and of human capital as well. Currently, based on data from the Economist Intelligence Unit, only 2 EU countries have electric vehicle take-up rates rapid enough for them to ban the sales of new petrol and diesel cars by this cutoff date, by 2035. It is Sweden and the Netherlands. And this is because there are various headwinds to widespread EV adoption. The first one is that the average cost of electric vehicles is still higher than of the classic petrol diesel cars, although this is supposed to dissipate with time because of economies of scale. But also there is a lack of adequate charging infrastructure still as of now, although the EU Fit for 55 plan will make extra funds available to accelerate the construction of charging stations and so on. But what we see and hear also based on some of the conversations that we have conducted as a part of my research with SIPE, with Center for International Private Enterprise, from players is that, it's a bit of a chicken egg problem, because there is reluctance to build more infrastructure because there is still too few EVs on the road. And then there is also a reluctance to purchase more EVs because the infrastructure is too sparse. So I think this is precisely the ideal point where policies should do their job and break these chicken egg dynamics and intervene. A prime example from the region Slovakia, which it has been stated that it reigns global automaking. It produced only about, I believe, 15% of electric vehicles from all produced vehicles, I think based on 2021 statistics. So it is safe to say that the transition is still young, and it will result to large-scale industrial transformations for several reasons. Upstream industries with thousands of firms producing the many components needed for internal combustion engines will see fewer orders orders in general, since electric vehicles require fewer parts. And downstream industries dependent on higher maintenance of ICE cars will see less demand. However, Patrick has mentioned that there is also some good news. The region has seen some massive investments, including to expand electric vehicle production and also electric battery production. Slovakia has secured 1 billion green investment of Porsche for production of EV battery modules. There has been a 3 billion commitment by LG Chem from South Korea in Poland, 2 billion by ČEZ in Czechia. There's also Tesla Gigafactory in Germany, Northvolt in Sweden. So they're popping up all across Europe. I think Hungary is an interesting case, and I'm sure we will get to that at a later stage, because it is harboring a lot of investment from China into battery manufacturing, especially, even to the extent that it doesn't have enough of human capital and skilled labor to operate these new investments and these new plants. And it's an interesting dynamics also, given its migration policies and kind of thinking around all of this. Now, in terms of job losses or creation, Patrick has mentioned the study with Globsec. When the study came out, I actually was at Globsec. It's a great empirical study. I recommend to everyone to look at it. I think the punchline here is that whether this transition will actually lead to net job creation or job loss will again depend on policy. This is a space where policy has to intervene, and in particular it will depend on the strength of industrial investment programs to reskill workers and retain as much as possible of the EV manufacturing supply chain in Europe as well. I don't know if I still have time, maybe a last remark on global competition. This will be tough. We know that more than 10 Chinese car brands have already announced plans to export EVs to Europe. Patrick has mentioned some data on the absorption. It is not clear as of now whether the penetration of Chinese EVs is crowding out the sales of European landmark EVs. I think the data are not conclusive as of now. But it is the case that the Chinese EVs are enjoying, they're 30% cheaper. So this is a huge competitive advantage. Whether it's fair, the jury is out. The European Union is already looking into this probe. And basically, I don't think anyone wants to get kind of stuck in a trade war with China over EVs, but nevertheless, it is being examined, and we will see what happens. And I'm happy to answer questions and discuss more nuance of each of these topics I have touched upon.
Thank you. Sonia Muzikařová mentioned quite a few important topics. Let me pick on one of them, and this is the importance of public policies, both investments and rules, in supporting the green transition in the automotive industry. And it's quite fitting because now we are giving floor to Ms. Jitka Švejcarová, who is head of department of the industrial branches, the Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic. Before I give her floor, let me just remind you that if you have any questions for our panelists, you can use Q&A window in your Zoom, send questions there, and we will surely ask them during the discussion. So now, Ms. Švejcarová, the floor is yours.
I'm sorry that it's a little misunderstanding. My boss, Mrs. Švejcarová, wasn't here, and I will have some short presentation about Czech automotive industry. My name is Martin Voříšek, and I am from Ministry of Industry and Trade, and I'm responsible for automotive industry. As was said, automotive industry is one of the most important industry in our republic. We produce more than 1.3 million passenger cars per year. This year it will be same. This year the share of electric cars on our production is roughly about 10%. It means that car producers are transforming to zero emission vehicle production, and we can say that around 170,000 people are employed in automotive industry. From this employment, we forecast about 30,000 people are dependent on production of internal combustion engines. It means they have to change their production or requalification to other production. And nowadays we are preparing new national action plan for clean mobility, and there will be some issue and some incentives for clean mobility. I think that's all from my view.
Thank you, Mr. Voříšek. Again, I'm sorry, it's my bad. I haven't noticed the change in the panel composition. Thank you very much. Now we'll continue with representatives of public authorities, and I will give floor to Mr. Szymon Bieliński, Director of Electromobility and Hydrogen Economy Department at the Ministry of Climate in Poland.
Hello.
Hello, thank you, and please join the discussion. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. I think today's topic is very important for our countries. In Poland, the automotive industry is one of the most important sector of economy. Almost 8% in our economy work in this industry, and the share of the products of automotive industry in our exports is more than 20%. So that's why, and we are one of the most important countries when it comes to the parts of for cars. So that's why the transition period for us could be a great chance to build a new economy, new automotive industry, and used and change to production of electric vehicles or batteries. But also it will be a great challenge how to support the workers in this industry during this transition period. As for today, we are quite active on the battery market. We produce a lot of and export a lot of batteries, and we also quite big producers when it comes to the electric buses. We invest a lot of money in development of electric public transport in our cities, and also we export a lot of electric buses to other countries. So that's why we see the chance in that. But on the other hand, we have a lot of small companies that cooperate with the big automotive producers like Volkswagen or Ford, and when this this big company will change into production of electric car, and production of electric car is not so complicated as the production of combustion engine vehicles. So it could be a problem for the small companies to stay on the market. And that's why I think what is very important, maybe in the future, we will try to introduce some support programs for the employers of this branch to learn them how to find themselves on the in the production of electric or zero emission cars. And of course, also the transition in the automotive sector will influence on our transport sector. We transport a lot of goods in European Union, and all the regulation that are connected with emission of CO2 from the engine of the vehicles is also a quite big challenge for us, and we need to be ready for this transition period. And what I think would also be a quite big challenge for automotive industry is not only the part of the transport sector, but it's also a part connected with the production of electricity, distribution grid, how we would like to storage the energy, because all our sectors in our economy will change, will use a lot more and more electricity. And so that's why we need to produce a lot of electricity, and this electricity should be zero or low emission. And I think that we should also think about that, how to send this electricity to our plants, the plant that will produce the battery or electric vehicle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bielinski. Again, two very important points. One on the importance of the energy system, which had to be also transformed to fit the needs of wider use of e-mobility. And the other one, and this is something that I guess we will also mention further in the discussion, is the fact that the decarbonization of automotive sector affects not only large investors, but also smaller companies. So the whole value chain, which actually means even more jobs and growth opportunities, or risks, of course, if not managed well. Now, let me give a floor to Mr. Zoltán Vík, Executive Director of the Hungarian e-mobility cluster YAK. So, Mr. Vík, you.
Oh, thank you very much. Excuse me for my voice, but I got some kind of virus at this time of the year, which is very surprising because my grandchildren are not present, so it's quite a mystery. But still, I have some voice. It is always very funny and a bit annoying that we have almost identical stories about the importance of the automotive industry. And I can only repeat some of your major remarks. We have a slightly different numbers. Radovan, if you can help me with my first slide in this context. Go on, please, to one. You can. I would like to share with you my whole presentation, but later on. So let's jump to slides 5 or 6 about the next one, please. So, as you can see, this is a graphic what I borrowed from the Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, a very old partner of ours. And it is about the importance of the automotive industry. And there is an old saying, if anything happens in the world economy, the Hungarian automotive sector can have very serious consequences out of this thing. It is enough to mention the chip crisis, the COVID crisis, and the war in the Ukraine, which caused very serious disruptions in the supply chains. We are integrated in the global, the Hungarian automotive sector is integrated in the global automotive industry. And it means that it is a vital part of our GDP. According to latest figures, approximately 3.9% of the Hungarian GDP is contributed to the automotive industry. And what is interesting, over the last 30 years, a very vivid and competitive supplier, automotive supplier ecosystem has been created. And I would like to highlight the importance of this supplier system, because it is the way the Hungarian SMEs were integrated in the global supply chains. And if everything goes according to the plan, we would like to repeat this process in the battery industry as well. Let's jump to this next slide, please. But before that, I would like to highlight the importance of what you have already told us, that there must be a just transition in the mobility or the automotive sector for the V4 countries, because the disruptive change we are witnessing, the change in the drive technology, the change from the internal combustion engines to the e-mobility solutions is a tremendous one. And the importance of this sector is truly reflected that the direct jobs, I mean, the number of people employed in car manufacturing in Hungary is almost 150,000. If we take the supplier background as well, this sum may grow to 300,000 employees. And if you take the methodology recently developed by the European Car Manufacturing Association, the full mobility sector, including the people who are employed in car sales, transport system, road services, it means almost more than 700,000 jobs. It is a clear proof that we have to be very careful in designing our clean and smart transition to clean mobility and clean energy. And I think Sonia has mentioned that, of course, we have serious problems with the workforce. There is an acute shortage. The shortage is relative because there are competing industries demanding workforce, which is educated, which is skilled, and it means an additional challenge that the workforce should be further educated as well. So it means that it's much more than, I mean, the problem is much more complex than speaking about foreign direct investment. And the next slide, please. Sorry. The latest development is the a bit unexpected success of the Hungarian battery industry. Since 2016, there has been 15 billion euros of foreign direct investment, and still counting. I think Patrick already mentioned that Hungary has become the fourth largest battery producer after China, Poland, and South Korea, with several gigafactories. All right, you can see the numbers, but of course there are some question marks, even political ones, that could be worth examining together with you later on. But of course, there are very valid fears on the political level about the environmental consequences of an industry like the battery industry. And not only the battery production raises sometimes legitimate concerns, but the energy demand that is necessary, or the water demand that is vital for these companies. So I think what I can clearly tell you that there is a growing interest in sharing the experience of the countries in the region, not only the V4 but also of Romania and Croatia, and to a smaller extent even Serbia, because the Central European transition from the old automotive industry to the bright new one touches vital supply chains and vital other economic the vital parts of the economic and financial ecosystem in these countries. So I would like to stress the importance of your initiative, and I hope that from time to time we will have the opportunity to discuss this further. Thank you very much. That was my short contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Beek. And we'll surely get back to some of the points you have mentioned, especially on the possible cooperation and preparedness of the energy system, and also other types of infrastructure for decarbonization and transformation. Now, and before I give floor to the last panelist, I also remind our participants that if you want to ask questions, you can use Q&A window, which is at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Now I'm giving floor to Mr. Endre Bali, representative of the Hungarian Hydrogen Technology Association and hydrogen cluster manager of the Association of Hungarian Automotive Suppliers, business development manager, Oxima Systems Ltd. It's a long title. Sorry, I got some things wrong there. Mr. Bali, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the forward, and thank you for the opportunity having me. Sorry about actually kind of a long time, so I get a pretty much a complex background. I'm actually just a guest speaker here because unfortunately our president of the Hungarian Hydrogen Association was not available, so apologies for that. So I'm happy to represent actually the standpoint of the Hungarian Hydrogen Association, as well as my side role in the Association of the Hungarian Automotive Suppliers, as well as my main role, which is basically from production, and it is primarily for sustainable production and sustainable growth for manufacturing companies in automotive industry. So actually, I'm trying not to mention or re-emphasize the valuable thoughts actually already heard from guest speakers. I'm just trying to actually just pick up my points where we can add some additional inputs. And then actually I would highlight my thoughts in reflection of meeting actually, of course, the Fit for 55 commitments, but also from sustainability, sustainable growth, and competitiveness as well. So if I take the first point, what is the impact, overall impact of this huge challenge actually to meet the Fit for 55 commitment, then I think we have just tremendous challenges actually you are facing in the entire automotive sector, since actually coming from manufacturing. And even if I look at the Hungarian Automotive Association, we have 250 members in the supply chain. And in the supply chain, as you could see actually Zoltan's presentation, we have the three big German-made car makers, and then two other OEMs as well. So actually all the players actually are facing a massive challenge in this transition period in terms of how to actually make a quick change, even at a higher pace of development than it was planned before, to actually to make the transition from the conventional internal combustion engines into EV vehicles. And the transition is clear. The goals are clear, but actually one of the challenges I would definitely highlight here is basically if the pace of development is faster than we actually as automotive suppliers were ever prepared for, then we are facing an over demand on in similar cases actually for resources, such as actually an over demand for even the lithium resources for battery manufacturing, or even raw material supplies in other components. Since we have actually three, coming now the fourth big battery manufacturers, it will be a big question actually how to localize some of the raw materials, to source them actually, or even to produce it or extract it locally, and then using our V4 resource, or share the V4 country resource actually just to stay competitive. So then the consequence is then we may face a price rise for raw materials as well. So I think it's a huge demand from the supply chain how to stay competitive actually in this run. And not to mention actually another perspective from the car manufacturers is basically since we are talking about electrification, then but still we have a lot of IC cars running on the roads. Then the OEMs are actually forced to produce actually two parallel technology on the same line, which is a massive challenge. If I just take actually Audi, for instance, then in the past 2-3 years ago, actually, they used to make 26 different ICE engine types. And now they are dramatically changing the entire production line to meet the electrification demand. And it is, if we take it actually down the line for the supply chain, then it is just an even increasing list of tasks actually to tackle with tier 2, 1, 3 level of suppliers. So dealing with all the suppliers and talking to them, it's just actually, I think, something even bigger than what any country can do. Then I would definitely highlight any cooperation with our B4 friends to tackle with the supply chain demands as well. And if I take something else from the support, actually the local governments, what we can do is something actually just having in mind that we have conventional cars on the road, and then it is actually heavily taxed or relatively heavily taxed. Then we have electrification, then we have EV cars running down the road. Then something that the local government has to look after, that basically there will be some shortages of revenues from tax collection. So that's something actually that the EV production, the EV cars shall face in the next years, actually over to 2030. And then as Mr. Simon Biliński actually mentioned, that the electrification needs an even higher rate of power inputs and also the power grid development, also power generation. So that's something actually we need to definitely take into account, and that's what we locally work in some pilot projects in Hungary. And then my favorite part is actually the hydrogen project. So that's something that we need to take it seriously. How to make any local production, localized production, transportation, and also the refueling stations. And that's something actually we can learn from each other in this respect. And then happy to take this opportunity for any cooperation steps in the next coming of months. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm happy to take the answers.
Thank you, Mr. Bali. Thank you. So we have closed the first round of your introductory remarks. We are getting to the questions Q&A session. I'll pick up one of the questions that appeared in Zoom and just add another one. Try to combine it with my own question. So first, my question, because this is kind of related to what Mr. Bali said, cooperation between Visegrad countries. Of course, if you have new investor coming to the region, countries are competing. So everybody is trying to attract the investment. It's each country for itself. But then, as we said, automotive sector is not just a huge factory. It's also a network of suppliers, the whole value chain, which could actually spread across the region. So my question would be, to what extent do you think that the Visegrad countries could be also cooperating in attracting new investment in electromobility or decarbonized mobility? The question from the Q&A window, it's from Lucia Mitna-Kurekova. She's asking about the constraints on skill and labor supply and relative bottlenecks, and what the public policy could do about that, and how it could ensure qualified labor for decarbonized mobility. I see that Ms. Malgorzata Wojtala wants to react, so I'm giving you the floor. If the others want to answer any of these questions, please No, sorry. Okay, I missed you. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm really sorry. The floor is yours. And of course, you can also answer the questions. But yeah, I'm really sorry. Go on, Ms. Voitala.
I mean, I didn't actually want to answer the questions. Apologies. So rather, can I go with the introduction?
Yeah, sure. Okay. It's okay. Sorry, I missed you. Sorry.
Bring up the slides. Okay, sorry for that. Yeah, so my name is Małgorzata Voitala, and I am representing here Electromobility Poland. So we are based in Warsaw. And first, I'd like to give still a little bit of introduction to automotive economy in Poland, and then explain why Electromobility Poland, what role does it play? So first of all, automotive sector contributes to 8% of Polish GDP, and 1.7% of that belongs to electromobility sector. So, seeing the transformation happening, it is obvious that Poland does require an action. So there was a study run by PSPA that if Poland will take a passive approach, 17,000 jobs could be at risk. But if an active approach was taken, 6,000 additional could be created. So there's definitely a lot to fight for. But Poland definitely stands high in terms of the supply chain for automotive sector, also in electromobility. So first of all, we do have high players such as LG Chem, and it is actually second largest production capacity of battery in the world, and actually first in Europe. So at the moment stand at 70 gigawatt hours, but there is a investment in place to improve it, to rise it up to 115 gigawatt hours in 2025. But we also have Norvolt, not yet operational, SK Innovation, and Umicore. Next slide, please. So together with the batteries production, I think it's very important to talk about recycling. So we have new EU battery directive that actually introduces quotas, what percentage of content of the cells needs to originate from recycling, and also recycling activities, efficiencies. And we fortunately do have strong development of those recycling plants. One of the substantial is Elemental Holding, but also POSCO near Wrocław, so dedicated to LG Chem. There's also Stena Recycling. And now next slide, please. So, going away from the batteries themselves, but still staying within the supply chain for electric cars, we are actually placed 10th as the world's largest exporter of subcomponents. We have investments from Aptiv, Valeo, Bosch, and we are actually 13th largest producer of copper in the world. So we do produce inverters, electric motors, high voltage plugs, onboard chargers. And next slide, please. And in total, since 2017, Poland attracted $125 billion investment. And yeah, this is from the companies such as Stellantis, Scania, Solaris, Volvo. And one point on this map is ours, Electromobility Poland. If you could click next slide to actually highlight in red. There we go. So we're located at the south of Poland, so that actually creates a lot of room for potential collaborations with V4 countries, because an obvious localization target would be within our 200 kilometers from that location in Jaworzno. Can we go one more slide ahead? There we go. So generally, maybe what is painfully visible from that map is that Poland is a main manufacturing hub for the Western countries. And Polish ambition is slightly bigger, perhaps. And Electromobility Poland kind of aims to realize this and create more technological competences and know-how within Poland, and also higher profile jobs. So generally it aims to produce an affordable family EV from 2026. And this is in cooperation with Geely. So this is a Chinese company, which may cause some controversies here. But I think we prefer to see ourselves more as a connector between Europe and China, given the technological advancement of the Chinese products. Of course, the long-term strategy would be to develop more potential in R&D and also enable this collaboration between businesses and academia. But for now, we do recognize that there is definitely a need for transformation in the automotive sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and sorry again for the omission. I've lost track of the whole large panel that we have. Anyway, now we are at the end of the opening remarks and going to Q&A. So again, there is a first question on how to actually ensure that there is not a shortage of qualified labor for transformed automotive sector. And the second question is about potential cooperation on the between Visegrad countries on attracting investment or creating new opportunities domestically. So first, whoever we can go. If you want to answer any of these questions, yes, I see Ms. Sonia Mozikajova. So please, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just very briefly on my side. First, on the cooperation and strategic areas for cooperation in this green transition in the Vyšehrad. I think in Vyšehrad, historically, it's been a lot about racing to the bottom and competing for capital and brains. Mostly now in Hungary, the foreign policy strategy and basically the politics of Orbán is pervasively shaping the strategic policy dossiers such as energy security, such as industrial strategy. They go hand in hand with the foreign policy orientation, which is controlled at a very high level. I think Hungary among the Vyšehrad 4 has been actually quite active, especially with attracting Chinese battery investments, more so than any of its neighbors. And I think for a good cooperation to transpire, the Vyšehrad 4 countries would have to identify those areas of cooperation that makes everyone better off, where they don't compete. And in order to do so, they would have to launch a very high-level political and industrial dialogue, a multi-stakeholder dialogue. And I just don't see the Vyšehrad format hasn't been very substantively or politically effective in a very long time, hasn't had a shared economic agenda in Brussels. Poland is large and diversified. It has different kind of policy issues. So there are large differences basically for Vyšehrad 4, and especially with the geopolitical and political divergence recently with, Czechia having a strong pro-Western government, Poland shaping up strong pro-Western government, and then Hungarian and Slovak leadership. I do feel that the region is more fragmented than ever before. So I think it is possible, but really at a very high, both political and industrial level, just the stakeholders would have to sit down together and talk about, be it infrastructure, be it a network of dual academies across the region. I mean, this can take various shapes and forms, especially infrastructure would benefit from the scale of the region. I think that would be really useful. But I just currently don't see the political will to forward this agenda. And on the talent, also very briefly, I think the region is very much behind on matching the educational outcomes with the actual needs of the labor market. And even if an education reform was launched yesterday in its ideal form, we will see results in 10 years for the first time. So I think the way to go here really is dual academies, where basically large OEMs very much in a hands-on material way shape the curriculums, calibrated for new technological innovations. So it actually penetrates the curriculums early on, and it also shows up very early on in the skills of the students. So I think this has been a proven and effective way. There is a great dual academy at Volkswagen. There is a few more in other parts of Slovakia. And I think this should be something that the government should co-fund in liaison with the OEMs and other involved stakeholders. I think it's a great way to actually ensure upskilling and reskilling, and that the transition minimizes job loss.
Thank you very much. That was rather cautious and I would even say pessimistic view on possibility of cooperation within Vyšehrad. Patrik Ryžanský.
Maybe just to scope this a little bit in terms of the skills and missing puzzle pieces. I would stress that we actually all lack skills and not only blue collar but also white collar jobs. Actually, we are already importing thousands of workers into our OEMs and first and second tier suppliers all over the region. And obviously we don't have enough people to work for automotive now. If I should focus on one perspective market, this is actually battery market. We are actually lacking around, I think, 160,000 people in the EU, and if I'm not mistaken, around 800,000 people should be trained at the EU level. And if I'm looking at what is going on in the V4, there's not much going on. One of the improvements might be achieved through EBA Battery Academy, which was launched in Poland by PSPA. But as I know, there's not too much traction by now with this effort. And just to remind you, we don't need only blue collars working in gigafactories and battery assembly plants. And just to give you a perspective, it's around 4,000 people for one gigafactory. But we need particularly engineers, recycling engineers, software engineers, electrical engineers, supply chain, everything, material engineers. So we all talk about how much we want to improve and invest and everything and transform. And behind all this, there are people who are missing.
Thank you. I see a hand of Ms. Malgorzata Wojtala, please. Yeah. You have to unmute, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, I'd like to add to what Patrick just said. I totally agree that I think we are producing more manufacturing labor rather than an actual other type of labor. And I think this is largely because we do not really invest enough in R&D activities. And that definitely also agrees with the previous speaker, that would require more cooperation between businesses and academia. But it is difficult if business is only manufacturer-based. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Czech?
I just wanted to contribute, on skills, and I think this is widely recognized at the European level. Actually, this year we have years of European Year of Skills, and actually we also targeted in this issue in our important document from February 2023 on the Green Deal Industrial Plan. That is actually important European contribution, to actually going in this direction that we are discussing today, and also partly reflecting upon the US IRA and the more broadly global developments in the industrial markets. And the skills is the third pillar out of four of this important initiative, and the Commission actually is proposing their creation of net zero industry academies, reskilling, basically focusing on reskilling, because 35 or to 40% is being estimated that actually of the workforce might be affected one way or another through the green transition. So actually we need to use this enormous workforce potential to bring them up to speed and to help with the green transition. And the last topic is, last but not least, is the cooperation. There will be for sure, European funding in this direction, but we need also to join the forces and with the private sector, so cooperation of the private and public funding is crucial. And in this sense, I agree with Sonia that she's saying that. Just creating, education from the scratch is the really long run perspective. That if we start to turn, the ship now. I mean, we will get the result probably in 20 years, So I mean, the bottom line is focus on reskilling is crucial, important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Vornicek, I see that he has also some comments.
Good morning again. I think that it said many of things. I think that our states are a competitor to attracting new investor, and investors compare condition each country from view of employment, skills, green energy, infrastructure, and in this area we should cooperate to attract new investor. But each politic is happy and lucky to set news about new investment in his country, and I don't. I think that each country has its own policy how to attract new investment.
Thank you very much. We have slight problems with the connection, but yes, as you have highlighted, each country is actually competing for the same investments usually. So this limits possibilities of cooperation. Now we will get to the second set of questions. One again is from the Q&A. Mr. Willem Ostatnik is asking directly to Mr. Vík, but I would open this question also to the others about the current production of Audi manufacturer in Hungary, which is basically focused on internal combustion engines. The question is whether it will be transformed and move to electric vehicles, or whether it will stay focused on ICEs that will be then exported to other parts of the world. But actually, the same question could be asked about any auto manufacturer anywhere in CE region when they are now manufacturing internal combustion engines, whether they will try to export them then outside of the Europe, or there will be a transformation of the production line towards let's say electric vehicles. So first question to Mr. Vík, but also others if they want to chip in.
Yeah, thank you. So as far as I know, the big OEMs develop their production strategies and facilities in their own way. What I can tell you that the Audi plant at the western part of the country in Győr is producing, of course, internal combustion cars, but there is a plant in the production facility producing electric engines. So it means that at the same time, so it's a very important, and I think about I don't know exactly the figures, maybe Andre can help me, but it's about hundreds of thousands of electric engines for the whole Volkswagen group. What I can tell you is gradually the production is shifting at the Mercedes plant at Kecskemét towards the electric models, and the BMW plant, which is under construction, will produce only battery electric vehicles. There is a big question mark about the fourth big OEM factory. This is Suzuki. Suzuki is a bit more relaxed towards the new electric models, but I think the change is inevitable. But of course, sometimes the big OEMs decide in their own way what to produce at what location, using what kind of supply chain. Usually, there is an effect on the local suppliers in this case, but this is without, I mean, the importance of the borders. So that's all I can tell you about this issue right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vík. As I don't see any other hand raised, I will get to another question. Asian or US car manufacturers had already been mentioned here in the discussion. They are seen as competitors to European companies. We have also talked about Chinese electric vehicles and an open case whether they are representing a fair or unfair competition to European manufacturers. So my question is, how we should look at these automotive companies from non-European countries in Vyšehrad region. Are they potential competitors or are they potential investors? So if anybody wants to answer this, Patrick.
Rado, they are actually both. They are a competitor for sure. But obviously, they actually produce already much more models, electric vehicle models, than we do in Europe. I think we are at some 250 plus models in China, and below 200 or 150 in Europe. So this is actually what we are lacking in Europe. So to produce enough and affordable models. So obviously, with the price war in China going on, where the ICE cars are actually already more expensive than EVs, around 30% lower price with EVs, which is the opposite in Europe. We are at some 30% more or higher price for EVs. This is actually a huge competition, and I believe that we are somewhere at 7% of all EVs in Europe produced by Chinese manufacturers on our today's market. So yes, they are expanding slowly, but surely. But of course, on the other hand, if the government actually makes the strategic decision to accept Chinese investments, they are also a big investor. You can look at Hungary, where you have already battery investments going on, with Cattle as the most prominent, 7 billion euro, right? And there are rumors that BYD might open its European facility in Hungary for cars, just adding to the electric buses, which are already present in Hungarian market. So, I mean, it's we need to work very hard to be competitive as Europe, but also as the region, to bring new affordable models and transform as fast as possible, because we cannot close the eyes as a small child before this transition. It is already reality. The train is already outside of the train station, and we have to be quick.
Thank you, Ms. Vojtola. There is also actually a question directly for you, asking about the potential of competition from ISERA with Chinese manufacturers, and any scheduled and planned subsidies for ISERA, and whether it will use the cattle batteries or LG Chem from Poland. It's kind of specific, but it's actually related to a role of these outside of the EU investors in the EU market. So please.
Sure. So while cooperation with Geely is official, I'm not in liberty to discuss who is our official supplier of the cells. But I have to tell you, it definitely is, we follow a official tender process, which is open. So it has to be a price competitive. And unfortunately, I have to say that the Chinese are definitely very efficient at their making. But I think I would like to add a third angle maybe to this conversation, not just to perceive Chinese as competitors and investors, but also for us to learn from them. So at the moment, BYD and CATL created a very efficient design for the utilizing, it's called cell-to chassis, which is just much better in terms of space utilization than what European manufacturers offer. And pretty much only Tesla can match this. So I think for us, there is a huge opportunity to learn from China. But I think there is an obvious danger, especially with the China passing the ban on export of strategic materials and technologies. There is an obvious danger that all lithium-ion technology is at risk, because at the moment, 92% of natural graphite comes from China. So perhaps we should ask ourselves whether maybe we should be looking at also development of other batteries, not only lithium-ion based.
Thank you. And Mr. Wieck, I see that you, yeah.
Contrary to the widespread perception, I would like to stress that the Chinese technology and automotive expansion is not only a risk or a danger. Maybe Małgorzata can help me with proving this. The Chinese colleagues, when they arrived, their first question was, what kind of local knowledge and base they can use or utilize, including engineers, common training programs. So they are very well prepared, and I think they are also interested in using as much local resources as possible. The big problem is, and I think it's I can rely on what Sonia said, that inside Hungary and I think in many other countries, while different industries are heavily competing for the best workforce, especially engineers. One of the South Korean factories said that they need 2,000 engineers for the next 5 years. The Budapest University of Technology, which is quite a prestigious institution, can supply, so to say, as a maximum 50 engineers in that with a specialty a year. So there is a huge discrepancy between demand and supply in that sense. And of course, well, where it leads, well, we will discuss it later on, maybe.
So I totally agree that there is opportunity with Zoltan. So attracting Chinese investment could boost our skill sets. But yes, we would need to be careful about this. But I do agree, being, you know, a fresh battery PhD grad, there is a lot of work, a lot of jobs available, and not enough skilled people.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to a kind of third part or third domain that has already been mentioned, and that's the whether the energy system infrastructure is prepared for this transformation. And let's not only talk about the energy, electricity, but we can also talk about water. Somebody has mentioned the importance of water management. Yes, Mr. Vig. There is also recycling facilities that need to be prepared for that. So do you think that Central and Eastern European countries or Visegrad countries are prepared for these opportunities? Because this is something which presents also an opportunity. It could be a bottleneck, but also a new opportunity for jobs and economic growth. Who wants to start? Okay, Mr. Vig.
So once again, forgive me for my voice. It's quite difficult to speak, but not only the energy itself, but the source of energy is a big question mark. If you speak about the Fit for 55 legislative package, it poses a lot of demands towards the member states. So if we speak about my favorite subject, which is e-mobility, it means that not only we need to create a more widespread infrastructure, but we have to supply this charging infrastructure with as clean energy as we can do. So this creates a big challenge for us. And that's where I think more space for regional cooperation, creating these synergies, for example, in energy supply, in this sense, because the new charging stations will be high-tech installations with energy storage facilities, and the market will be more international or regional with different players. So where I can see a big opportunity for cooperation is between the Central European EU member states is in creating a more resilient and more reliable charging infrastructure, both in electricity and both in hydrogen. Just to give something for Andrea as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bielinski?
Yes, I think this is a very interesting topic, because I think the different branches of economy will need a lot of energy during the transformation period. And what could be the main obstacle for energy transformation would be the lack of low emission energy, because I think that we will not be able to use only renewable energy sources. That's why we need a stable energy sources. For Poland, we project nuclear power plant, but as I know, in different countries there's still a discussion about sources of energy. But what also is very dangerous for development of our economy is the fact that in next few years, the automotive branch, heating production, chemical plants will be on the same market of energy, and they will need a lot of low emission energy, which could, as an effect, start the price of energy will rise, and this will affect the economy. So that's why I think we always discuss in one branch. We always discuss about the automotive sector, about the chemical sector. But what we need the strategy for whole economy and how to use low emission energy in whole economy. But our goals in European Union are divided into different sectors.
Thank you. I see Mr. Bali raised his hand, then Mr. Czech and Ms. Muzikářová. Actually, we have last 10 minutes left, so I guess this will be also kind of closing remarks for the debate. So, Mr. Bali.
Yes, thank you, and I'm really happy for the question actually, because most of the time actually we were just talking about the diversification in terms of production and supply chain, which is great. That's the future, and that we have actually a massive challenge to meet. That's fine, but like we said before, actually, so nothing exists without input energy, and then it's all about sustainability now. So it's not only just producing EV cars in greater volume over the next decade, but also actually the consumption of such OEMs and also the entire supply chain will increase. And on top of the EV vehicles, actually even looking at the charging stations will require even greater volume of input energy. And that's where we actually coming into the center point of the question, how we will actually produce that sufficient, deficit of energy, what we have now. Because if I look at actually our local energy mix, it's a huge mix. I mean, it's a colorful mix. Let's put that way. And then we have renewables just up to less than 15%, which is definitely not enough. And we have a strong reliance on gas and oil, and then it's 30%, and we have nuclear power as well. So it's just an energy mix. Actually, we definitely need to look at and make it even more colorful. And it's great to be greener, and it's great to extend the entire spectrum of the renewable resources, because the demand will increase, but and the supply will increase. But on top of it, actually, if I take hydrogen, for instance, hydrogen is something that actually we can locally produce from locally available resources, and that's where something actually that we can not just develop and extract locally, but also sharing the knowledge and sharing the resources, and then sharing the distribution, because we have a good European directive actually to create a hydrogen hub. But the hydrogen hub needs multiple supply channels from across Europe, actually. So that's where something we can do in a cluster with the V4 countries, just to make more viable energy mix to produce enough energy to support actually the entire electrification industry, not only the manufacturing, not only the supply chain, but also the users as well. And just closing my words, actually, recently we held an annual summit of our automotive association. Then we have a panel speech. It was about battery and hydrogen. So it's not we highlighted as a competition, but the end of the panel speech, we wanted to get the output from the auditorium, basically, that is not a competition. It is something running parallel. So we actually can learn from each other, from different technology, and it's a complementary technology. So I would definitely highlight the importance actually to support both technologies. And then we in hydrogen can learn a lot from battery production, but in hydrogen we need to actually set up the entire value chain from the well up to wheel, and it's creating a lot of more opportunities in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Czech.
No, I just wanted to develop a bit on the issue that was mentioned by Mr. Geist on the energy infrastructure, because I mean this is also important, to development of the car industry. I mean, look at the case in the Eastern Slovakia where in July Volvo announced quite a massive investment to build a new plant, and Eastern Slovakia is interesting from the point of view that it's relatively. I mean, there is a relatively thin connection, towards east, and you will need to increase the capacity of the electricity connection there, or you will need to boost the production in the east. Also, given the fact that there is one important decarbonization investment related, to the giant local steel plant that will also need a lot of electricity, and you see also neighboring Ukraine may also need some help. So for the development of the local production, automotive, it's for sure. The energy sector is very important. So we need to look at this from the perspective of green transition, but also energy transition, that we try to help with, including the Repower EU initiative at the European level, and we agreed with Slovakia over summer very important reforms to develop renewable resources, to the reforms to quickly and better connect, new resources to the grid, and hopefully it will help also to Eastern Slovakia and development of automotive industry there. I'm quite sure that the car manufacturers would be happy, to connect, to the green energy, and to show also that not only cars but also the electricity that is fed, into the production process is green. Thank you for this interesting discussion.
Thank you. Now I'll give floor to Ms. Muzikárova.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick note on nuclear, because this is the primary source of clean energy that the region of Vyšehrad 4 has betted on and has decided to rely on for its heavy industrial base. But the diversification efforts away from Russia and Rosatom have not been so straightforward. I mean, a lot of progress has been done on natural gas, but we have seen exempt and Russian planes still landing in our countries to bring in Rosatom nuclear fuel. I think a part of the issue here is that this diversification of nuclear fuel for the legacy Soviet reactors requires, first of all, capital-intensive investments into new technology, and second of all, long regulatory approval processes. Both are quite, cumbersome and difficult, but especially I think Hungary wants to continue relying on Russian Rosatom, or at least it's not as ambitious on the diversification efforts, but at least for the V3, so Slovakia and Czechia, to a smaller extent, Poland, I think there could be some sharing here and some cooperation, because we have spoken about where there is scope for cooperation in V4 in terms of the transition. So I think in terms of research sharing, stress testing for the different varieties of nuclear fuel that can be used, things like this, I think definitely between Slovakia and Czechia, it's something that could be shared, and the whole process could be sped up in this way. And then just on the side note, I mean, the deployment of renewables is incredibly low in the region. And I think it should be stepped up even for industrial processes. I mean, we're not saying that industry should rely exclusively on renewables. Clearly, we have chosen nuclear for it to be the primary source of energy. But I don't see a reason why every automotive plant would not have a green roof with solar panels just to complement energy sources. And basically supplement the primary reliance on nuclear. I think renewables still should be stepped up within the overall energy mix of these countries.
Thank you. And I still see a hand of Mr. Voříšek. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think that I will repeat many things from previous speakers, because we are, I think, in the same position now we are transferring to green energy. We will have to close coal power plants, gas power plants, and we will have to build new solar systems and green hydrogen and other green sources of energy. And we need to build infrastructure for electric vehicle, hydrogen, and other green mobility.
Okay, thank you very much. So the time is over for this discussion. Obviously, it's a broad topic. We were not able to discuss, I think, even 1/3 of the things that are related to it. I hope this is not the last discussion. We haven't touched upon the energy storage. We haven't touched upon the role of the social partners in the transformation process, or potential conflicts or complementarities between hydrogen, battery electric cars, e-fuels, and so on and so forth. So obviously there is a scope for further discussions. I hope we will be able to organize them and meet you there. So again, thank you very much for participating at today's discussion. And also let me thank to the Embassy of Polish Republic to Slovakia for helping us to put this together and organize discussion. Thank you, and for all the participants, we'll send the presentations that are presented here, and I'm looking forward to meeting you again at one of the Euractiv seminars.
Thank you very much.